lesson number 1, the first thing we want to do is wedge the clay. It gets all the air bubbles out of it, because if there's a bubble in it in the kiln and it's moist in there, the particles expand and it'll pop in the kiln. So I want to get all the air bubbles out. So push and lift, push and lift. So I'm going to want to wedge my clay for a little bit. It's already been wedged, so I'm just showing you what needs to be done. And you can hear the bubbles crack sometimes. And this is lesson number 1. We're going to make something like this, but then when it dries, we're going to cut it off the wheel and trim a foot underneath it so it's lighter and it just has a little ring that touches your tail. So, Zen tea bowls. We're traditionally raku pottery, which is an outdoor process. Here in America, it contains a little bit of copper, so people don't want to eat out of it. But for tea ceremonies, Buddhists use it all the time, and I'm honored to be able to make some for some Buddhist facilities. So, what I just did now, which is the hardest part of pottery, is centering the pottery in the middle of the wheel, centering the clay. When people take classes, it takes them a long time to do that, but that's really the hardest part. Once you can center it, you can do everything else. It's pretty simple. So once it's centered in the middle and not shaking, see how my hands aren't moving too much? I'm going to apply pressure in the middle and make a hole. I'm making sure not to make my bottoms too low. Sometimes if you don't want to trim them, you can make them really low and they're nice and light, but we make ours thicker so we can trim them away. So I've made the hole in the middle. And on my right hand side, it's really fat, like an inch down here, but it's really thin up here. If I cut it in half, it would look like a pyramid. So I'm going to take my bunny ears and squeeze the bottom of it and lift it up on the right hand side at 3 o'clock. All the time I'm breathing. I'm going to go ahead and trim a little extra off the bottom with the cutting tool. The goal is to use a little amount of clay for the biggest piece, make them nice and light. You never want anything too fat. So I'm going to do it one more time. You do it till it's thinner than your pinky, until you're happy with the shape. You never want to stay in one spot. You want to continually move up, even if you're applying different pressures. And I drained it. I might cut it one more time a little bit because I can trim the rest off later. And I'm pretty happy with that. That was Zen tea bowl lesson number 1.